It's fantastic to see so many maths teachers here today. It's not that common at Teach Mate, so that's fantastic. Like Eddie, I'm also a head teacher maths. I'm at Clara High School, which is probably as close to Abbottsley private school you can get in the public system. I have done time up the coast as well.
Mossman High School.
Mossman High School.
Mossman.
And I guess what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of advice to people going out on prac or going out and becoming a teacher, you know, when you have those L plates on. And it's really interesting because Beryl has done her teaching rounds at my school, as has Lauren, who just finished yesterday. So hope that'll help. I'm lazy, so I asked my teachers what they thought. I've got a first year out teacher who started this year, someone who started with us last year as a first year out teacher, someone who's only been teaching for a couple of years, and then I also asked Lauren and a few other people sitting around the table what they wanted to know. The question I actually asked them was this. The question I asked them, we'll look in a minute, but the first thing someone said to me was, everything about teaching is hard. Shit, moralising, isn't it? And I really like this picture I just found on the internet. The bit that actually gets seen is the bit on the top of the iceberg. Everything else you do that makes it really outstanding is that stuff underneath the water. And that's the bit that's hard, because it doesn't always get seen. It doesn't get recognised. As Townsy said, we all work on our holidays, but no one ever knows that. But you know, being a teacher is the best job in the world. Point in fact, I caught up with a student before this that's now here that I taught Extension 2 Maths in 2011, and she's just about to start her honours degree. And you know, when you see those kids come through and really have that passion, and she's still talking about going and becoming a teacher, which is even better. So you know, it really is, that opportunity to make that difference in kids' lives is second to none. The question I asked my staff is, what would you like to have known before you entered the classroom, and what advice they have for you? So this is all from them, not really so much from me. I censored it, of course. The first is, and this is probably the most important, when you're on rounds, you're under pressure to make every single lesson absolutely amazing. There's someone sitting up there writing notes down on various forms, and you know, whether they all get submitted to uni or it's only some of them, you really feel like you're under pressure. But when you get out into the big wide world, there's so much other stuff you actually have to do. And a lot of that you were sort of sheltered from when you're on your rounds. And it can become overwhelming if you try and maintain that pace that you do on teaching rounds, when you may be teaching a half load or even 2/3 of a load, to going to a full load and trying to make every single lesson amazing. Go for one a week, one a day even, whatever you want, but don't try and make everything. Sometimes you just have to get through. And yes, it's about the kids, it's about providing good quality learning activities, and that doesn't mean you have to make every lesson the awesomest thing ever. Ask everybody anything. I honestly see my role as a head teacher to be there to, facilitate questions. Now, it really is dependent on what school you end up in and what sort of faculty, what the relationships are within the faculty, but you really need to seek out people who you can ask questions. As new teachers, you're not expected to know everything. Ask where the toilet is. The first thing when you get there, most important. Ask what you do in this case. Ask what time the bell goes. If you don't know how to explain something, ask. If you don't know what to do when a student does this, ask. If you don't know whether you should bring a parent, ask. No one's going to think badly of you if you ask questions. And ask questions about everything, because that's how you will learn. And don't be like, I've had plenty of new teachers who want to try and hide in the corner because they think that they should be on the top of their game. They've just got this job and they don't think they can ask those questions. But please, and every teacher will say they're happy to answer questions from new teachers. You do struggle, it's hard, but don't do it in silence. I have seen teachers that melt down and you didn't even know there was anything wrong. So find that person. I think someone's going to talk about mentoring a bit later. Whether it's a formal mentoring program that's set up in the school, or whether you find someone who you naturally gravitate towards and that you feel comfortable sharing that with. And it's often better to be someone who you actually you work with as opposed to someone outside the environment. Someone who has that understanding of what the pressures are. Because every school is different. When I was head teaching maths at Coast Harbour High School, it's all about discipline with the kids. you know, and it was hard work. I get 7, 8, 9 kids per period being sent to me. At Kalara High School, it's totally different. It's actually about the parents. So it's just different pressures. And please ask for help. Sleep. Probably not in class, and also probably not with colleagues in the faculty either.
Or cross faculty. That was the
And it wasn't me. Get it, someone outside the faculty.
Yeah,
It's not what I meant by colour outside the lines, okay?
That's not what I'm going to I guess one of the things that you do lose is that ability to actually find sleep. And if you don't have enough sleep during the week, you won't be as productive as a teacher. So, you know, I've got my first year out teacher at the moment who said to me the other day, he said, oh, I was up to 4 a.m. working on Brock Learning. So he's actually not even preparing his lessons. We're doing the Brock Learning National Computer Science Challenge with all the Year 7s at the moment. And he's really into it, you know. And yeah, he's had bags under his eyes all this week, so I told him you have to go to sleep this weekend. Right, so please make sure you do that. Have good communication. So parents, as a general rule, 99% of parents, if you ring them and say, look, I've had these issues with your child in class, or I'm concerned about your child's understanding, they're going to want to know that. You know, they're not going to jump down your throat. Sure, there are some who will. And this comes back to that ask for help, you know, ask questions. If you're not sure how to approach that, talk to your supervisor, talk to the person who you trust and say, I'm going to ring a parent for the first time. The first time you do it, it's scary. You know, oh God, what am I going to say? But most parents, they just want to know what's best for their own kids. Okay, and if you have that line of communication, and once you've done it a few times, you go, hey, well, that wasn't so hard. If you do have a known, you know, trouble parent, you know, the ones that are those helicopter overprotective, my child can do nothing wrong parents, and you're not comfortable doing it, have your supervisor or the head teacher or whatever standing next to you while you make that phone call. So if it does go pear-shaped, you can say, oh, look, I'll just put you on the head teacher. That's why they pay us so.
That's right, that's what it's for.
Also, communication with colleagues. You'll find there are a whole heap of different people who are teachers across the environment. Some of whom you'll get along well with, some of whom you won't. But I think it's really important to communicate well with it. And when you do have issues, because you will, to actually, you know, negotiate those issues out. Don't go, oh, and hide in the corner or stew on it. Actually have that good communication with all of your colleagues. Know all the processes and procedures. So one of the biggest fears for new teachers is, how do I manage this discipline? You know, it's this overarching thing that, you know, they're going to ride on me. I know my staff have an awesome lesson, but geez, what am I going to do if I do this? So know what the processes in the school are. Ask questions and know when to escalate it. Once again, the jobs of the more senior teachers in the faculties or the schools in which you're working is to support you in this. Now, when you escalate, don't always expect that they're going to come in and save the world, because that's certainly not my approach, because ultimately the processes are there and you are the one that needs to implement those processes, because the minute someone else steps in and takes over your class and makes them sit down and shut up and get on with it, they've actually disempowered you. So I prefer to empower you to be able to make those decisions and support you in whatever the processes in your school are. If you don't know what the processes are, ask the question. You know, every school has these processes, and it does mean that you can, you know, work more easily within it. And the key thing all the teachers said to me was that they held on to issues that they perhaps should have escalated more quickly. You know, they thought they could deal with it themselves, but they really should have pushed it up the line quicker. Even if that person wasn't going to solve it, but could help them to solve it. When you're dealing with student behaviours, remember, the kid owns the behaviour, not you. You can't change anybody else's behaviour. The only thing you can do is manage it. And don't be surprised if, you know, some kid is going off their nut at you in a class, and then the next day they walk in like nothing's happened. They're very, very forgiving. And you know what? We need to be as well. And because, you know, every kid has a bad day. We have bad days. And, you know, we need to give them a second chance. But remember, they own the behaviour, and you won't always be able to change it or even necessarily manage it. And also remember, there's always a reason for every behaviour. Kids don't just do stupid stupid things for the sake of it. There's always a reason why they're doing it. Now, you can't always address the reasons. Most of what we tend to do is, put band-aids on the behaviours. We don't actually address what the reason behind the behaviour is. And often that's because we don't have the time. Once again, that's that escalation side of things. Because you as the classroom teacher may not have the time to investigate that or know everything that's going on, but other people may, and that can help you to manage that situation. I think Townsy already mentioned this.
I drink all weekend, it's okay.
I was going to put a slide in there saying don't drink on school nights. Don't work all weekends. It's so easy to do, and as a young teacher, you really want to impress, and you really have to have that work-life balance. I think, I had exactly the same experience as Megan where, when I had young children, I wasn't giving them as much time as I should have. And I've now made the conscious effort. I work for maybe 3 hours on a Sunday night after the kids have gone to bed. But actually, most of the rest of the weekend is for them. Because I think that having that balance means that you are a better teacher. Spending ages preparing doesn't actually necessarily make you a better teacher. Okay? Because you've got to have that balance. And you've got to be, in a good mental state yourself. And as far as that balance goes, in order to be able to teach well. Laugh. Mm-hmm. Or cry. Mm-hmm. We all will cry sometimes because things go badly. But laughter is obviously the best cure for everything. Don't be discouraged by things that don't go to plan. Someone said it never goes to plan. This is also the same teacher who said his best lesson was the one when he walked in and threw lollies to all the students. Find the positive people within your faculty or wherever you're working. There are always those that say, oh, it's terrible, the kids here are terrible. The naysays, and they're shocking. And anybody who's had children will know this because the minute you fall pregnant, everyone goes, oh yeah, well, I have my child, the labour is the worst. They try and scare the hell out of you. I'm not entirely sure why, I'm not sure what purpose that serves, but I think it's exactly the same in teaching environment, and I've only got about 3 more slides. Helpful tips from me, so that was all my faculty, edited by me obviously. And Megan also said this, say no. It's so easy to be asked to do everything. And as Eddie said, your primary role has to be to master your craft. So when you are being offered opportunities to do things, don't say yes or no straight away, step back and consider it. Is this going to take me out of my classroom? You should aim not to really be out of your classroom at all in the first few years. Because you've got to have that time in the room. You've got to have that continuity with the kids. Now that's not going to happen, but you should aim not to. And don't be the person that just says yes to everything. Consider, is this going to help me to improve as a teacher? Is it going to allow me to develop my craft? Does it allow me to do, good things for a long time? So say no. And I said that to Eddie and he said he hasn't learned that yet, and I kind of haven't really either. Listen. The most important thing is that you can listen to lots of different things. In the same way you listen when you go on teaching rounds, it's actually no different when you're first year out, or even I've been teaching for 16 or 17 years now, and you've still got to listen. Observe. One of the things I've noticed that happens often is that when you go out on rounds, try and observe as many different people as possible, not just your supervising teacher, because you'll find that there'll be bits from everybody who you'll say, oh, I can use that, or no, I don't really like that part. But that shouldn't stop once you become a first year out teacher. And certainly if you work in the DEC, you do get a 2-period allotment as far as a new scheme teacher. Use that time to go and see other people teach, and not just within the faculty you are or the stage in which you are. Go across the school and really try and take in and learn that craft. And that's why I think Teach makes it so fantastic as well, because you have teachers talking about their craft and really take that opportunity to observe. And fortunately in the DEC, they've just built that into our professional performance development plans, that you have to go and observe other people's lessons. I think that's a fantastic option. And obviously ask lots and lots of questions. And finally, be amazing, because you will be. That's it, thanks.